gluten-free diet is followed for celiac disease and dermatitis herpetiformis. These are autoimmune conditions. If you've been diagnosed with one of these conditions, then this short film shows dietitians discussing the relevant dietary information that will help you to incorporate gluten-free eating into your daily diet. If you think you need to follow a gluten-free diet, please ask your doctor or specialist nurse to refer you to the dietetic service. When you're referred to us, you will be offered a clinic appointment to discuss dietary changes with a registered dietitian.
Hello, my name is Jess. I'm a dietitian at County Durham and Darlington NHS Foundation Trust. Today we're going to be talking to you about celiac disease and how to follow a gluten-free diet.
Hello, my name is Sarah. I'm one of the other dietitians.
So Sarah, what exactly is celiac disease?
So celiac disease is what we call an autoimmune condition. And by that, I mean the body is fighting against itself when it feels that there's a foreign body in it. That foreign body is a protein called gluten, which is found in wheat, rye and barley. So when we have gluten in the diet and somebody has celiac disease, that when the attack happens, we've got all these little finger projections called villi in our small intestine, and that reaction causes them to stunt and decreases the absorption capacity of our guts. So we don't get all the nutrients such as iron and calcium and some of our vitamins as well. So we can get quite poorly with that.
So if somebody thinks they have celiac disease, what should they do?
The most important thing that somebody should do is actually keep eating foods that contain gluten. So that's things like bread and pasta. Even if they are causing you to have some of your symptoms, you must keep having those. The second thing to do is contact your GP and get an appointment. Talk through the symptoms that you're experiencing, and then they can decide whether or not you need to have a blood test. So you can be diagnosed via a blood test or via having a camera down into your small intestine through an endoscopy.
So what are the symptoms of celiac disease?
There are a number of different symptoms. The classic ones that people may experience are having diarrhea or weight loss, but other people can experience things like tiredness due to the anemia caused by not having enough iron in their body circulating, or it can be bone pain. Some people can have irregular periods. Other people suggest that they have headaches. So it's a multi-symptom condition, but the classic ones are weight loss and diarrhea.
So it is quite a broad range of different symptoms that you can have. How common is celiac disease?
The current figure for the UK for celiac disease is approximately 1 in 100. So 1 in 100 people will have celiac disease.
And once I've gone to the GP or the person's gone to the GP, what happens then?
So they should, once they've had the diagnosis given, they should be referred to a dietitian so that the dietitian can give them good evidence-based advice on how to follow this diet. It is a lifelong condition, so therefore it is a lifelong diet.
So is the diet the main way to treat celiac disease?
Yes, the only way to treat celiac disease is through diet.
And with the diet, what can somebody with celiac disease eat?
So there's lots of naturally occurring gluten-free foods that are available. So things like meat, fish, beans and pulses, eggs, they're all naturally occurring. Soya, fruits and vegetables. The foods you have to start being cautious with is anything that's made from wheat, rye and barley. That tends to be things like cakes, biscuits, bread, pasta. There's other things, there's older grains like spelt that are of a gluten derivative there. So spelt bread's meant to be healthy, but for somebody with celiac disease, you need to be avoiding that. But there are alternatives out there. So we've actually got a range of different grains that are available that are gluten-free. So we've got things like, it's labelled self-raising flour. That is one that you could either buy or you can get flours on prescription, because we're excluding a major food group with our starches and a major energy source. So therefore those need to be replaced through prescribable products. We also have things like corn flour. We have oats, which are pure oats. So that means that they've not been grown anywhere near wheat, rye or barley, and they've not been processed in a factory anywhere near wheat, rye and barley.
So with the oats, I know that they don't actually contain gluten, and there's a lot out in the media and different recommendations about oats. What is the advice on oats in the diet?
So the current advice is that you can include a medium portion in your diet. So that's something like a bowl of porridge or a flapjack that's making sure there's no other like flour in, as long as it's gluten-free flour, or it could be making into a cereal bar. That's okay. Some people still react to that, so it's a little bit of trial and error, and through the monitoring process, through your blood tests, that we could see if that was an issue for you.
And is it because the oats are similar, contain a similar protein?
Yeah, there's a similar protein, so that one's called avenin, so it can trigger the same response within the body.
So we don't necessarily, if somebody has celiac disease, need to cut out biscuits, cakes, all those treats, or bread as well.
Yeah.
So what happens with that, apart from using the alternatives?
So with the alternatives, we can get things like bread and pasta and flour on prescription. And the flour, you have to it's got a blend of different gluten-free grains made into flours within it. There might also be something called xanthan gum, which is basically, gum is what it does. It adds back the elasticity and makes the texture of either the bread or the cakes a lot better and a lot more like normal gluten containing of those things. So we've also got things like polenta, we've got ground almonds, and they can be used as like a replacement, or things like polenta can be used in replacement of breadcrumbs that you might have coated, say, fish or chicken. We've also got a spice mix that's made up with different spices and herbs, but it's made up also with ground almonds, and it means that, say, for a child where they might have been going to like having takeout fried chicken, then you can make an alternative at home and actually make it healthy as well.
So instead of breadcrumbs, and you could do chicken nuggets or fish fingers, anything like that as well?
Yeah, anything like that.
Okay, so there are natural alternatives that you can use, and then obviously you'll be getting prescriptions from your GP. So I know we've got some various books and magazines here. Would you be able to talk us through what they are?
So this is just a range of different gluten-free recipe books that are available. However, what you can do is all the recipe books you might have in your house, you don't have to go and buy these special ones. You can just adapt the recipes. So where it says self-raising or plain flour, just substitute it with the gluten-free flour. I'm not going to say that you won't have some disasters, but it's a trial and error, and it's bringing some joy and fun back into making things and learning about how you can manage your own condition.
So just tell us what we've got here.
So the final two things that we've got here are some scones. So you can still have scones. You can make those with gluten-free flour or a mix of different flours. So we've got cherry and cheese there, and then we've also got banana and chocolate muffins, which have been made up with ground almonds.
So they've used a complete different substitute, something that's not being given on prescription to adapt a recipe. And what are these magazines and books here?
So there's just a couple of retail magazines that are available. The national charity for celiac disease is called Celiac UK, and every year they publish what is called the Food and Drink Directory, and this is what celiacs will term their Bible, and it has a list of every food that is available in different supermarkets that is gluten-free. So it's got things that you can get on prescription, but it's also got branded goods. It's got the supermarket own brands as well. So if there's, say, a certain soup that you normally have, sometimes soup will have wheat flour added to it. So you can then check that soup to see if it's actually got wheat in it. And so therefore, you don't necessarily always have to buy things from the free from shelf. There is a lot available. A lot of the supermarkets are now making their sausages gluten-free. And that was a common one that we were always advising before, that you needed to avoid, or like go to the butcher and ask them to make special ones. But there's a lot now, sort of over the last 3 to 4 years, that's come out that's naturally gluten-free. The manufacturers are really joined on with that. And that's because there was a change in labelling legislation about 3 years ago that meant that we had to ensure that there was a lot of allergen labelling that was correct and people could identify things easily for that.
So it makes it easier, obviously, if you've just been diagnosed and you're going shopping, to have the Celiac UK directory with you, and then obviously it might take you a little bit longer to actually be reading labels, but once you know what is gluten-free, it might get a little bit easier, and you won't need to read the labels as much. But obviously with the new legislation, it makes the labels a bit more user-friendly as well.
And Celiac UK have got a vast array of different information. So they've got stuff about how to make sure you're getting adequate calcium in your diet. They've got other information about how to make sure you're getting adequate iron in your diet. But they've got a good information about if you're going on holiday. So they've got translations in a multitude of different languages. That means that you can actually go on holiday, take this little card with you, and it just explains what celiac disease is and what the foods are that you can't avoid. So it's not saying you can't still have the life that you normally had before being diagnosed.
And when you mentioned there about calcium and iron, is there other vitamins and minerals that somebody with celiac disease should be worrying about or looking at in their diet?
The main one is probably vitamin D, because we're finding a lot more that the nation as a whole doesn't have enough vitamin D in their diet, and vitamin D is really important for celiacs so that they get the calcium being added to their bones so that we can prevent osteoporosis happening.
Vitamin D kind of helps come along and mop up all the calcium that you're having, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And if somebody has been having gluten in their diet for a long time, does that affect how you're absorbing any nutrients?
So generally, after diagnosis, once these finger projection, the villi that I've mentioned before, once they come back to being how they should be, you should start absorbing all the nutrients as anybody else without celiac disease. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer for those who have become iron deficient to build up their iron stores. So if you've been experiencing tiredness as one of your symptoms, that's the one that I find from the people that come to clinic, that's the one that takes the longest to resolve. Whereas somebody who's had diarrhea, it resolves quite quickly.
But following this gluten-free diet can help kind of put things back to normal as such.
Yes, definitely.
So overall, what is it like living with celiac disease?
So when somebody's got celiac disease, I think it's a lot to take on board, because it is basically food and food's life, isn't it? But I think it's just, you have to keep trying different things. You have to be a bit more prepared. You just can't go, I'm going to go and do this. You have to think things through. But because of the labelling legislation, it's become a lot easier for people to be a celiac and know that there's safety out there, that the food they're eating is okay. Celiac UK themselves are working a lot with sort of national chains of restaurants so that they can have GF or gluten-free accreditation, so that when a celiac goes to, say, a certain pizza branch, they will know that it's being cooked in the right environment, there's no risk of cross-contamination, and they can eat their food safely and enjoy a normal meal with their friends and family.
So it does just take a little bit of planning ahead, but you can still go out and enjoy meals out.
Yes.
What is cross-contamination as well?
So cross-contamination is just where you have gluten foods interacting with gluten-free foods. So the important thing is that you maybe have separate breadboards. Toasters is the classic one. So you can either use a toaster bag that you can get in certain supermarkets and cooking shops, or it can also be using a grill instead of the toaster. Making sure you've got separate butters and margarines from the rest of the family. Same with jams. Drizzle bottles are quite good if you've got honey, so that you don't have to put a knife into something, because it's that cross-contamination of any crumbs. And people often say to me, is it that much? And you just don't know how, that one crumb, you don't know how much damage that's going to do to your insides. So it's better to not take that risk.
So overall, it's just being more aware, and obviously seeing your dietitian locally, they'll be able to support you with, I imagine, local places that you can eat.
Like within County Durham and Darlington, we've actually got like a leaflet that's got all the different establishments that can provide gluten-free foods for you. So it makes life a lot easier.
And for more information, please visit the Trust website or Celiac UK website.